Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Quran in English, Basics for Beginners. Auzubillahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Surah Qiyamah, the Resurrection, chapter 75 of the Quran, comprising 40 verses. Verse number 1. I do call to witness the resurrection day, and I do call to witness the self-reproaching spirit to issue evil. Remember, we mentioned this in the previous episode. The lowest animal self, which is the rebellious self, basically think of a snake or a crocodile or an animal. They're just two main functions, eating and reproduction, which is sex. So eating and sex, whereas the self-reproaching spirit is the higher level. It's your conscience pricks you if you're doing something wrong. And the highest level of the nafs is nafs mutmainna, which is the nafs at peace, and it is submitting to the divine command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Does man think that we cannot assemble his bones? Now, as I mentioned in the previous episode, we will just look at this again because it's absolutely fabulous that the question is being asked, a rhetorical question. Do you human beings, the one who don't believe in the resurrection, do you think that it is difficult for Allah to bring you back to life again? Because the Quraysh, when Nabi Sal'lal'laa'hu A'layhi Was'sallam told them that you will be brought back to life again, and they mocked and they made a big joke out of it. And famously, one of the fellows, the pagan Quraysh, he picked up a bone from the ground. Maybe it was a camel bone or a goat or a sheep that was decomposing. And he crushed it between his hands like a biscuit. And he laughed. And he said, are you telling me that this piece of bone is going to come back to life again? And he looks at all his cronies and they all start laughing to say, look at this fellow. He's telling us that this piece of dead bone is to become a sheep again or a goat again. What does he think we are? We are so ignorant. So they made a mockery out of it. In this, the Quran is telling them, you think that Allah can't recreate that? What's wrong with you? What kind of a concept you have? Now, sadly or strangely, even in the so-called modern age of the 21st century, people who have gone to school, they've gone to elementary school, they've gone to high school, they've gone to college, they've gone to university. Some have become great professors and scientists and doctors and astronauts. And they say, we don't believe that God has got the ability to bring people back to life again. We don't believe in the day of judgment because we don't believe that God can assemble the bones again. This is how little they know. But the Quran is saying, nay, not only assemble your bones, we are able to put together in perfect order the very tips of his fingers. Now let's look at this particular statement of the assembling of the bones and the tips of the fingers. For the Quran to make this statement is a very, very heavy statement. Because in order to assemble the very complete identity, this is what the Quran is saying, your exact identity, whoever you are, will be reassembled to who you are without making a mistake. Without making a mistake, so that if you put your thumbprint on the day of judgment, the scan will show who you are. Even though your body was decomposed, you could have been 1,000 years in the grave, you could have been cremated, and well, we as Muslims, we don't cremate, but for the unbelievers, they can cremate the body, but the guarantee is that everybody will be brought back to life again. Now, for us to understand the amazing thing of this particular statement, let us look briefly at what a basic biological cell is. Sorry, I'm just trying to look for a pencil. I don't know where I've misplaced everything. All right, I found something here. So let's look at a basic biological cell. All right. So in order to save time, I've just scribbled something. This is an amazing thing known as a semi-permeable membrane. And I just want you to consider the amazing thing about a semi-permeable membrane. This is a simple, basic biological cell. The cell has got an intelligence. The cell decides which solutes go in and out. We know we've got our sodium channels, our potassium channels, our calcium channels. We've got all of that going in and out. But at this entry point, this is actually passport control and immigration control. Solutes cannot go in and out. The cell decides who is allowed in, who is allowed out through various vesicles and various channels. Who has given the cell this intelligence? The cell has got a brain. It's got passport control. If someone comes there, the cell closes, this gate closes. They say, no, you're not allowed to come here. Someone else comes and this gate opens up. They say, okay, you can come inside. Who decides that? Who has given the cell the intelligence? And if we look at the basic structure of a cell, it is more complicated and more advanced than a Rolls-Royce factory or a Mercedes factory or a BMW factory. It's got things like your mitochondrion, which produces your ATP molecules. It's got your lysosomes, your histosomes, your messenger RNA, your rough endoplasmic reticulum, your smooth endoplasmic reticulum, your Golgi apparatus, and your nucleus. The main thing in the cell is your nucleus, which contains your 46 chromosomes. These are the chromosomes, and the chromosome in a haploid has got 3 billion base pairs with the amazing DNA molecule. The mitochondria is basically your Duracell battery in your body. It produces the ATP molecules. So each and every one of us, we've got Duracell batteries in our body. And these Duracell batteries give us our energy, right? And that is why sometimes you go to the doctor, you're feeling tired, you're feeling lethargic, and the doctor says, okay, let's send you for a blood test. You go for a blood test, and the doctor says, you know what, your vitamin D3 is low, you need to get more sunshine. Why do you need sunshine? Because God, most merciful Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has given you your skin. Your skin is a solar panel through which the sunshine charges these batteries in your body. Absolutely amazing. This is the main critical component of a human being. It's got the genome, the genetic code, the code has been revealed after extensive computer calculations. And the amazing thing about this double helix DNA molecule, it is the most advanced molecule in the entire universe. It comprises 3 billion base pairs in a haploid, in a diploid comprising 6 billion base pairs made up of adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine, ATCG. And every human being has got 23 chromosomes. We are not looking at the pathological ones at the moment. The general component is 23 chromosomes, 23 pairs, which gives you 46 chromosomes. And if you are XX, you're a woman. If you are XY, you're a man. Now, how many cells are there in the body? There's not 1,000, there's not 1,000,000, there's not even 1,000,000,000. There are 30 trillion cells in the human body. And each of these DNA molecules is 2 meters in length. Now let us look at the length of these DNA molecules if you put them end to end. If you take all the DNA molecules in the body and you lay them out straight, it is 30 trillion multiplied by 2 meters, giving you 60 trillion meters. You convert that into kilometers, it gives you 60 billion kilometers. Can you imagine that number? For one human being has got the amount of DNA molecules in your body that if you lay it down in a straight line, it will cover the distance of 60 billion with the B, 60 billion kilometers, whereas the Earth is only 12,000 kilometers. Compare that. The distance between the Sun and the Earth is 150 million kilometers, not billions, whereas for one human being, it is 60 billion kilometers. This cell that is more advanced than a Rolls-Royce factory, the atheists and evolutionists, they say, no, it came by chance. There is no God. How illogical can you be? This is clear proof and evidence that God exists. It is impossible for a complicated molecule, the most complicated advanced molecule in the entire universe, comprising 3 billion base pairs, 6 billion in total for a diploid cell, 3 billion for a haploid, to by chance to assemble itself. It is saying that you got 3 billion pieces of pages. You got 3 billion pages. And just by chance, the pages were just shuffling like that, and all of a sudden they made this molecule. That is absolute nonsense. Someone has made this code, and every single human being got a different code. Your code is different from your spouse. Your code is different from your mother and your father. There's some overlap. Your code is different from children. Every single human being got a different code. That's why at a crime scene, they take your blood test, and based on the blood test, they say, okay, your DNA matches, and you are the criminal at that scene. That's why they take a swab from your mouth, or they take a blood test. Every single human being has got a different DNA code. On the day of judgment, God most merciful will reassemble these 30 trillion cells, these biological cells, producing your muscles, your skin, your bones, your tendons, your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your heart. Everything will be reassembled again. Your 5 sensory organs, your eyes, your ears, and even your amazing brain. And the brain has got 100 billion neurons or brain cells with trillions of interconnecting dendritic connections, giving us our pathways in the brain through neuroplasticity. All of this, that means everything will be restored, and most importantly, your memory will be restored. Even if you died from Alzheimer's or dementia, it does not matter, you'll remember everything. By the time God most merciful has assembled everything, and this happens instant, in a click, it happens in 2 ticks, you're assembled. Your exact fingerprint will be the same as it was before you die. Your fingerprint will be identical. Your voice recognition will be identical. Your retinal eye scan will be identical. Your tongue print, because every single human being got a different tongue pattern, that will be identical. And there will be no doubt that it is you, because your DNA molecule, God most merciful, will assemble those 6 billion base pairs. God most merciful will reassemble everything. He will assemble 30 trillion cells. And the people who denied it will be in a state of shock. People such as the Illuminati, the Freemasons, those of the Jeffrey Epstein's files, those 13 global world families. You know, there are 13 families in control of 300, and these 313, they control the world. They own all the banks in the world. They decide when warfare will happen. They decide who will be the politicians who are elected. They are the wealthy of the wealthy. It is just an illusion that, for example, in America, you got the Democrats and the Republicans. They are basically controlled by the same people. It doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican. It makes no difference. That is just to fool the world. By the end of the day, the same 13 people, the families, 13 families, they are controlling the Democrats and they are controlling the Republicans, not only in America, but in Britain and other Western nations. They got their fingers in the pie all over the world. They decide which countries must be invaded, where warfare must happen, and so on. They don't believe in God. They worship money. Money is their God. And they worship Baal. Many of them are occult worshippers and satanic worshippers and occult worshippers. They drink the blood of babies to keep their youth. They control the entertainment industry. They control the media. So while they're committing evil, they're putting lies through the media and lies through the TV and lies through TV documentaries. What they are forgetting is that on the day of judgment, guaranteed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring them all back to life again. It is an absolute guarantee that every single human being on the planet, whether you believe in God or not, you will be recreated and brought in front of God. Every single human being, irrespective of race or religion or ideology, whether you are black or white or brown or Christian or non-Christian, Muslim or non-Muslim, Hindu or Buddhist or Scientologist or pagan worshipper or traditional worshipper or neo-paganism or a Sangoma or a traditional healer. Every single human being, including the false prophets and the fake prophets and the so-called God men and the God woman and the saints, every single human being, the monotheists, pantheists, polytheists, agnostics, those who are not sure if God exists, including the atheists, Charles Darwin, Alfred Russell Wallace, Professor Richard Dawkins, Professor Brian Cox, Professor, who's the other one, Stephen Hawking, Professor Carl Sagan, every single human being, including the popes and the presidents and the honorable members of parliament and senate and congress, every person will be brought back to life again to stand in front of God, and that's a guarantee. It is foolish to think that God created you the first time and He can't do it again. It's like saying, "Hey, you know what? I've assembled that bicycle, but no, I can't do it again. No, no, no. I got it right by chance the first." How silly can you be? If you know how to assemble, you ordered a bicycle from Amazon, your bicycle came, you assembled it. Now your other kid wants a bicycle, and then a new bicycle comes, and you say, no, 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 I can't assemble this one here. Really? So God created the first time around, and surely He's going to assemble you again. Surely, as the previous verse says, does man think that we cannot assemble his bones? If he thinks that God cannot assemble his bones, he's in for a state of great shock, because indeed, nay, we are able to put together in perfect order the very tips of his fingers. So please don't delay. Get your copy of the Quran today. The Quran gives you the meaning and purpose of life. And another interesting point, I was just doing a quick Google search here. What you find amazing about the Quran is that the total number of words in the Quran are 77,000, the words. Whereas the Bible, instead of 77,000, it's got 6 to 800,000. That means the Bible is 10 times thicker than the Quran. The Quran is 10% the size of the Bible. Look at that. The Quran is so small, it's so little book, but it gives you the most powerful words of wisdom. So there's no excuse for you not to read the Quran. It's very easy. You can read from cover to cover. If you are a Christian, if you've read the Bible, you'll find the Quran very easy. Because the Bible is 10 times, this is the King James Version. You can do your own research. The King James Version is 10 times thicker than the Quran. So there's no excuse. So please get a copy of the Quran today. You'll find out the meaning of life, the purpose of life, and exactly what happens on the day of judgment, what happens in the grave, and how mankind and why mankind are divided only into two groups, and what is the purpose of life, why is there suffering, why is there evil, and why God does not interfere. Stay well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah.